Hey guys, Akariss here, bringing another Fire Emblem Heroes video. Today's video is going to go over everything Tempest Trials wise. I actually had a previous Tempest Trials video that connects pretty well to this one, so that's going to be in a card below me if you want to go watch that one first or for context. But generally this video is going to apply to everyone, no matter how hardcore you are at Tempest Trials, and give you some perspective on how you should approach it. So, with that being said, enjoy!
Let the lesson begin.
Alright guys, so as of the recording of this video, the current Tempest Trials is Familiar Stranger, which is featuring Spring Myrrh and Sala as the free Tempest Trials unit, but realistically that doesn't really matter. What this video is going to focus on is some of the score changes and the target score thing that came as of this Tempest Trials. It's a change that happened. You don't really need to worry too much about that whole new target score mechanic. Basically just play Lunatic 7 the first 2 times you can use it, and then after that don't worry about it. So yeah, let's talk about stamina in this video. Let's talk about which difficulties you should play on and exactly what sort of rank or how you can manage your resources efficiently to get the most out of this. This video will not feature hero merit. The previous Tempest Trials video mathematics that I did cover that, and that hasn't changed, so feel free to go watch that video first if you want to understand how much hero merit you're getting. For everyone is different. Some people have farmed it, some people run Tempest Trials because of hero merit, and I can totally understand that. But the thing that this video will definitely focus on is stamina efficiency and the rewards associated with those stamina efficiency choices. So let's start, shall we? The first thing that we've got to talk about is, of course, the rewards in Tempest Trials. So it's been pretty consistent all around. There have been some minor changes here and there, but overall I'd say most of them give a lot of feathers, a lot of orbs, coins, stones, through stuff like the dailies, just a lot of stuff. Free 5-star heroes, and it's all pretty realistic for anyone to really get any of this stuff. So Tempest Trials is a very meaty mode when it comes to making progression on your accounts, and you definitely should be playing it no matter what level of competitiveness you are in Heroes. Another thing to keep in mind is that there is a secondary ranking reward, and the target scores that you need to hit these rankings is quite a lot between a lot of different players, different Tempest Trials, the difficulty of the Tempest Trials, and how active the player base is. So to give some approximations, I'd say like top 1k has always been somewhere between like 250k to like 300k sometimes, with like anything below being vastly less. And I'm talking like top 5k maybe being 120k to 150k. And I think if you just reach the rewards, you're probably going to land somewhere around the 50k, 100k, maybe 100k to 200k range and get yourself just a nice 3,000 feathers or so. But it is a huge difference to consider between 3,000 and 10,000 feathers every single Tempest Trials, considering you get this over 12 times a year. That can add up to be more than a couple merges on your favorite heroes. So it might be worth putting in the effort to try to get a little bit more feathers out of Tempest Trials every time it comes in, because that's nice. Or at least for the hero merit, which you get from being able to play Tempest Trials so many times and then getting all those feathers, right? The last thing, of course, is the dailies in Tempest Trials, which if you do it every single day, you get a lot of stones, I believe about 15 stamina potions, and also some additional feathers on top of that, right? So, yeah, that basically covers most of the rewards given in Tempest Trials without going into any specific examples. But yeah, let's actually go over the difficulty options and how you can think about it yourself. So the first thing I would kind of like think about is like how experienced you are as a player, right? The more experienced you are, or the bigger, stronger your units are, or maybe just how convenient you want it to be, or how fast you want it, all of these things kind of determine which difficulty you should go for. Generally speaking, I think with, kind of like TLDR of this is if you play manually, play Lunatic 7. It's time consuming, but it gives you the most score and the most hero merit for your stamina, of course. It's like basically manual farming rival domains, for example. If you want to get the most out of it, Lunatic 7, the hardest difficulty, manualing it with something like Linja or Vector, which I've done successfully without a problem, is something you can do and get a lot out of your hero merit that way. The lower difficulties, of course, Lunatic 5 and Hard, I think is basically based on how how weak your team is, or if you're trying to just farm hero merit with weaker units, then you should definitely consider like the hard difficulties, hard 5 or 4, which again we'll talk about in more detail in a moment, with Lunatic 5 being something like your stronger units, but you want to auto battle instead of manually control them. There are definitely people who can auto battle Lunatic 7 successfully, but that requires some super premium units because there are usually hard counters to like every unit in the game, for the most part. Okay, yeah, so the lower difficulties, and I think a lot of people miss this actually, is hard 5 is basically these 3 difficulties are 15 stamina, and the lower difficulties are 12 stamina, 10 stamina respectively. The biggest thing to actually think about and talk about here is actually the fact that hard 4 difficulty is 12 stamina, and I did cover this in the previous Mathematics Tempest Trials video, but this stays the same, but there's score differences now. They've adjusted a little bit of the scoring in this Tempest Trials. It just recently came out, but will apply to further ones, and it is worth going over that again just to give you some perspective on, again, which difficulties you should go over, right? These are the sort of scores you get. One thing I'm not going to talk about in this video is the 3 times bonus, which is given daily 2 times. If you're to do that, make sure you do it on Lunatic, on the hardest difficulty. Just play manually 2 times, I'd say, and just get the most value out of that boost. But it's not going to be covered in this video. Ultimately, it just saves you quite a few stamina potions, I'd say a few, but not going to be covered in the video. And yeah, Lunatic 7 for the bonus, but generally speaking, Lunatic 7 gives you the most amount of score for your stamina potions. Again, we're going to jump into the math in a moment. And the multipliers. When it comes to multipliers, the speed ranking is more important than the survival ranking. Those are the 2 components along with the bonus ally. You got to bring a bonus ally, and you got to do speed and survival. Speed meaning you got to clear it within a certain amount of turns. And usually to fail this ranking, you basically got to be running with a bunch of armors who go crawl at like 1 movement. Your AI gets stuck for some reason, or you end up in these crazy stalemates where like a low TA unit versus a low attack unit is like hitting each other for like 20 turns, doing like 1 damage or something, especially if there's healing involved. So speed is important to kind of maximize auto battle, and survival is essentially how many teams you've lost. And it's a smaller multiplier, like less punishing. Okay guys, now let's actually talk into the more important stuff of this video, which is the mathematics. This is where things get very meaty, but very important to realize if you're doing it the right way. If nothing else, at least you'll enjoy and kind of get like a, oh, I didn't know that kind of moment, which is I definitely got that as I was doing a lot of this again. So, stamina regen, in the span of a Tempest Trials mode, like the full 10 days, you're looking at 2,880 stamina regen over the span of the 10 days. However, that's assuming you don't let it overflow, because realistically, I mean, people sleep and you might essentially lose a bit of that stamina. But if you think about it, consider that about 29 stamina potions of regeneration over the span of 10 days of Tempest Trials, plus you get about 15 from dailies. What this means is likely you don't have to spend a single stamina potion to get to the 50k rewards, and I don't have to calc that, I'm sure that's the case. But it becomes more interesting when you consider going for the ranking rewards. And how many stamina potions do you really want to use there? How much hero merit or feathers do you really want to go for your stamina potions? Because if you do the lower difficulties, for the most part, you're going to run out of stamina potions trying to chase those rank rewards or those feathers. So the first thing we got to talk about is stamina efficiency. So 1 stamina potion, 99 stamina, which is essentially 6.6 runs of Lunatic 7, Lunatic 5, and Hard 5. But if you do 10 stamina potions, that's about 990 stamina, which is a much cleaner number of 66 runs. Or if you just want to think of it simply, 990 stamina is 66 runs of these modes. So if you do the whole stamina regen, you already are getting plenty of stamina potions worth without actually having to spend a stamina potion. And of course the bonuses, which I'm not going to cover, add even more to this score. Now, the real interesting part of this video, and something you should highly consider, is Hard 4. Hard 4 is 12 stamina, but within 99 stamina of a single stamina potion, that's 8.25 runs. For a cleaner number, it's about 990 stamina for 82.5 runs, or for 20 stamina potions, it gets to a solid number, but we're going to keep it at about 10 potions, 990 stamina, so we can do proper comparisons. Okay, so the math of this, all of it. If you are to look at a single stamina potions without going into decimals, it is about this much. The really cool part here is that a single stamina potion, you're actually getting more score out of hard 4 than you are out of hard 5. This is very important to consider because you could be wasting your stamina or stamina potions on hard 5 rather than hard 4. And another thing to realize is that if your teams fail, like if you're going on to the second team, or if they're slow for whatever reason because the difficulties are hard to do, you're actually going to get much less score out of hard 5 versus hard 4. So that error here, that room for error makes a big difference. And it's not even shown here. This is assuming perfect runs. Of course, you're not going to be doing Lunatic 7 or maybe Lunatic 5 perfect auto battle runs, which makes hard 5 and hard 4 the more appealing option for the casual player. But hard 4, I think, is the sweet spot for throwing in just some, weaker units, like some 5 stars you might have just unmerged or uninvested into, because honestly, the units there are much weaker, and you're going to get a clean run pretty easily. So the really interesting part here is because it is only 12 stamina, it means you get more runs out of it, and because of that, you get more score out of hard 4 versus hard 5. And that definitely closes the gap, and because there's less room for error there, or more room for error with like weaker units, you can clear that and assure yourself that score difference. Of course, I mentioned that if you look at 10 stamina potions, you get the much sweeter numbers, and the gap definitely closes with hard 5 getting a bit more score, but that's only assuming perfect runs of hard 5 every single time. And you might say to yourself, oh, but hard 5 is faster. But remember, hard 5 is 5 maps and hard 4 is 4 maps. So realistically, even though it's more runs, it's faster. The units die faster. There's only 4 maps versus 5. That saves you actually a bit more time. If you don't have the FEH pass, actually, then I guess you would be having more input, physical manual input, and that might be a little bit annoying. But again, it's nice to look at this. Obviously, Lunatic 7 and Lunatic 5 are much more efficient, but they're also harder to get perfect runs in, and generally speaking, like Lunatic 7 would probably take a lot of time and maybe manual input to really get that sort of efficiency compared to hard 5 or hard 4. Okay, so I'm going to talk about target scores and kind of like what you should consider doing. I'm going to use the 250k, like top 1000 roughly benchmark here. Remember that these stamina pots are not exactly how many stamina pots you use. This is assuming you don't use your stamina regeneration, you don't use your bonus daily score, and of course the target score system and the dailies potions that we also get in monthly. So realistically, you're spending a lot less potions over the span of a Tempest Trials, but to make it simple for the sake of this, I mean, you're basically looking at a lot of runs to reach 250k. If you want to take this perspective and apply it to yourself for, let's say, 125k, half the score, then all you do is just divide all these numbers by 2. If you're looking at, let's say, 50k, just divide them by 5, and that's about how many runs or potions you got to use. Of course, if you divide by 5, you're not using a single potion, likely just due to stamina regen and the amount of dailies you get here. So yeah, I would say, guys, if you can afford to do it, if you have the time to do it, try to complete Lunatic 7 runs, obviously. If you are trying to use weaker units or such and just auto-battling, you should probably look at doing hard 4. But if you feel your units are a bit better quality, then auto-battling Lunatic 5 is a sort of good middle ground, I'd say. As long as your units can consistently clear it for a near perfect score every time. That pretty much sums up everything here. Of course, this can get even more complicated if I was to consider the bonus scores in here daily, the target score system, and even having more target scores in here. I didn't really want to make it overly complicated. I just wanted to give you a nice, clean guide on Tempest Trials and maybe make the most out of it for your stamina potions or time or units being farmed through feathers. With that being said, guys, as always, give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this video. Go watch the other Tempest Trials math video as well if you want to kind of get a more hero merit perspective on this, because I'm sure people do farm it for feathers too, and I wouldn't blame you for that. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Much love. Peace.
It's over.